So I will try to cover that what is the main cause of flood in the country, then what are the different types of floods we are facing in the country, and then some general aspects of flood management, including flood forecasting. And then I will like to touch upon the how some attempts have been made regarding the flash flood forecasting by CWC. Am I audible to everybody?
Audible.
Yeah.
Audible, sir.
Yeah. So as we know, we all know that our country has predominantly monsoon climate. And besides other uniqueness of monsoon, the most important one is spatial and temporal variability. And I think this is the prime causative factor of floods in India. We have the places in the country in northeastern parts like Cherrapunji, Mausin Ram, which is getting highest rainfall in the world. And on the other hand, western Rajasthan has most scanty rainfall. Even talking in the time dimension, most of the monsoon rainfall, say more than 80%, is falling in less than 3 months, June, July, and August. And in recent times, there has been enough evidences of increasing spatial and temporal variability of rainfall, as more and more rainfall are coming in linear number of days. Extreme hydrometeorological events are also becoming frequent and also being experienced at places not known for such extreme events. So now talking of the different types of flood. Generally in our country, we are facing 4 types of floods. First is riverine flooding, which is also known as fluvial flooding. Second is urban flooding, which is also known as pluvial flooding. Then the third type of flooding is flash flooding. And then the fourth flooding, which we experience in coastal region of our country, is coastal flooding. So riverine flooding is the most common type of flooding. Riverine flooding is most common type of flooding which we experience in our country. And it is due to the runoff generated in the channel beyond its carrying capacity, and hence there is spillage over the banks, causing flood in low-lying areas. Such flood mainly occurs due to overtopping of rivers, heavy rainfall, melting of snow, and bank erosion because of steep slope of rivers. Coming to the urban flooding, which is generally due to the stormwater drainage congestion. Runoff generation is high in the urban areas due to lesser infiltration capacity of pavement and other structures. So even with lesser intensity rainfall, due to the urbanization and development in the urban areas, we are experiencing the stormwater congestion, and we are experiencing the urban flooding almost in every urban centers now. Then third flooding is flash flooding. See, if there is high intensity rainfall in the urban area, that is causing urban flooding. And if this is high intensity rainfall is occurring in countryside or in hilly areas, that is leading to flash floods. So flash floods are events that are sudden, severe, and short-lived. And it is a sudden and often destructive surge of water down a narrow channel or sloping ground, usually caused by heavy rainfall. So flash flood is not usually guided by the hydraulic factors. It is mainly governed by the meteorologic factors and to some extent by hydrologic parameters. Flash floods are mostly the result of cloudburst or some blockage of the river channel, landslide dam or glacial lake outburst system due to landslides. So some of the possible region of flash floods we can summarize as: first, a heavy rain in an area with high runoff because infiltration capacity is not capable to absorb the high intensity rainfall, means rainfall intensity is much higher than the infiltration capacity of the soil. So there will be no absorption, and whatever rainfall will come, that flows as the seed flow, causing the flash flood. So rainfall intensity exceeds the infiltration capacity of the soil, and usually there is a seed flow of water. And it is not necessarily guided by the rivers or channels. It may be, this flooding may be due to the steep slope in the hilly areas or in the anywhere In the urban center also now flash flood is coming. So a prolonged heavy rain feeding into the area water course can also be the cause of this flash flooding. Then a sudden snow melt can be the factor. Then a rain on frozen soil, which melts the snow in addition to the rain volume, which cannot be absorbed into frozen ground. That also creates the flash flooding. Then a breakage in a dam or containment system. When there is some intervention and there is failure of that intervention, then that also causes the flash flooding. Uh, you might have heard landslide, dam break, or glacial lake outburst systems. So that is also causing flash flood system. High tide, storm surges, tsunamis can also attribute to the flash flooding. Then downstream blockage of the river channel, I have already mentioned. So mainly flash flood leads to the destruction of roads and bridges, faster erosion of the river banks and higher erosion in the area. It may disrupt the water supplies and wastewater treatment in the center. Then eventually it leads to the higher number of lives lost and danger to the life and property. Then the last flooding we have mentioned, coastal flooding. It has the unique characteristics that in addition to the rainfall in the catchment, that may be combined with the tidal surge, or due to the some cyclone surge is coming. So in combination of that two, that accentuates the problem in the coastal area, and that is known as coastal flooding. Now there are enough evidences of this climate change in the country. It's still not very authentically proven, but evidences are enough that extreme weather events have increased and its frequency and intensity is increasing. And that is resulting into increase in number and intensity of the flash floods, extreme events. Few examples I have given: Kedarnath flood in 2013, Srinagar flood in 2014, Sri Salem flood in 2019, which all have occurred due to the high intensity rainfall. If you see the total flood prone area in the country, that was identified as 40 million hectare in the country. And main flood prone basins were Ganga and Brahmaputra, where we annually facing some degree of flood. Degree may differ, but we are getting floods annually in these two basins. And main flood prone states are Assam, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal. Now, globally, in recent times, there has been a shift in the concept of flood management. We know that flood cannot be completely controlled. So instead of talking flood control or mitigation or its management, we talk about flood risk control, mitigation, and its management. So we need to understand what is flood risk. So flood risk is directly proportional to the three prime elements: hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. We will examine each element in the Indian context. So first is hazard. Hazard is the natural flooding event which is coming due to the rainfall variability, due to the spatial and temporal rainfall variability, which I have already mentioned as the prime causative factor of flood. So this is very natural and we don't have much control on it. We can design some structural measures to contain the floods of certain regions. So suppose in agricultural areas or in rural areas, we design the embankments for protecting those areas with 1 in 25-year floods. Or in urban and in industrial area, we design structural measures for 1 in 100-year floods. See, we have own challenges. So we cannot protect ourselves with 1 in 1,000-year flood or 1 in 10,000-year flood. Netherlands has designed its flood structure for 1 in 15,000-year flood. But we have own challenges. We are still in the developing economy stage. So we can contain the hazard element to certain extent by some structural measures. Second element is exposure. Exposure is also defined inversely proportional to the capacity of the system. So as we will increase the capacity of the system, we can minimize the exposure impact. For it is a mainly administrative and governance issues. So suppose floodplain zoning. If we are able to implement the floodplain zoning, we can minimize the flood risk at the initial stage up to 30–40%. So this is the first measure one should take at the administrative level, floodplain zoning, in which we define the different type of land use according to the different return period of the frequency of the flood. So see, just like important installation like power plant, defense installation should be located beyond 1 in 100-year flood. And some common feature like park, etc. should be located near the river. So this is floodplain zoning, and this is very important. Then second system to increase the capacity of the whole system should be flood proofing, means issuing guideline that buildings should not have plinth level below the 1 in 100-year flood level. Then hazardous industries should not be located near the river. So these are some flood proofing guidelines should be issued. These are exposure elements. Then third is very important, and which are very much in focus these days, is vulnerability element. See, some of the vulnerability element I have listed down, but this is not very sacrosanct. This is not the end of the vulnerability element. There may be few more. First, I have mentioned channel encroachment. So we are vanishing the right of way of the river. We are making settlements in the floodplain near to the rivers, and that is encroaching the channel. And whenever flood comes, damages are increased. So first vulnerability element is channel encroachment, that should be minimized. Then second is faulty reservoir operation. See, in last few years, dam releases has been issued in each year, whether it be the Kerala flood 2018 or 2015 Chennai flood. It has been considered that it has been due to the dam releases. See, for water resources engineering perspective, for dam engineers, dam is not designed to cause flood. But unfortunately or fortunately, we don't have dams for dedicated flood moderation. We have generally multi-purpose dams, and that is due to our own challenges. We have so much pressure, we have so much demands, so we are going for multi-purpose dams. You know, USA has more than 2,000 dams only for the dedicated flood moderation, but we can't afford that. And demand of flood moderation and the other conservational benefits like irrigation, power plant is just conflicting. For other conservational benefits, we need to fill the dam as soon as possible, whereas for flood moderation, we need to keep it empty. So these are conflicting. So reservoir operation is a challenge in our country. But even if that is multi-purpose dam, some dynamic flood cushion can be employed, can be utilized by properly deriving the rule levels for dam. For each dam should have an updated rule curves in which they provide that in which season, at which date, what should be the level in the reservoir. So in that way, that can be managed. But still, the dam reservoir operation is a challenge, and that is a vulnerable element for us. We need to minimize the impact of that. Then in drainage congestion in low-lying areas is one vulnerability element. Then for coastal cities, narrow exit to the sea is one vulnerability element. See, in case of Kerala flooding, Kerala was normally owing to its unique topographical and hydrologic conditions, it was not supposed to suffer with such high magnitude of flood because it has a long coastline, and people were thinking that water can easily drain out. But see, there were only two narrow exit to the Kerala. One was Thotapalli spillway and other was Thanirmukkam barrage. So for such high intensity rainfall, Kerala catchment was not able to drain it easily. But still, flooding of Kerala and flooding of Assam and Bihar, you can compare. If flood comes in Assam and Bihar, it comes for staying for the full season. You can see this. But in case of Kerala, as fast as it came, as fast as it receded. So that is also one challenge, narrow exit to the sea. Then embankment breaches. We use embankment as a very effective method for flood protection. But see, if we are not maintaining it, we are inviting the trouble. And most of the flooding problem in this Assam region is due to this breachage. So you need to maintain those embankments. So these are some vulnerability elements I have cited. And by minimizing the impact of all these three elements, you can minimize the flood risk. See, all structural measure has some softer measures to be taken in conjunction. If you are making dam is a very effective measure for flood moderation. But if you are not managing the reservoir properly, you are inviting trouble. So all softer measures should be used in conjunction with the structural measure. So integrated flood management approach is that you have to use a very well judicious mix of structural as well as non-structural measures. Second dimension is that of integrated flood management is that we should not aim for protecting a critical reaches affected due to the flood only. We need to plan for a basin basis. See, last year, extreme hydrometeorological event in Chambal Basin caused the flood up to Farakka, where Chambal joined Yamuna, then those areas flooded, then Yamuna joined Ganga, then those areas flooded, and it went up to the Farakka, West Bengal. So needs to be flood management works need to be planned for the basin on the basin basis. You cannot plan for only the critical reaches. And then third dimension of the integrated flood management is also that it's not the work of only disaster management authority or water resources department. All ministries, central ministries, state departments, as well as the public needs to work in coordination so that this flood can be managed properly. So this was about integrated flood management. Next slide is not moving. Hello.
Hello, sir. Just click one time on the screen, sir. Then you can press the arrow button.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I think you have selected a pen. You have selected some option. What you can do is, sir, you can just press escape at the topmost corner of your keyboard. Escape button.
Now it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
So now coming to the forecasting part. Forecasting is considered to be the most cost-effective non-structural measures. And CWC started with level forecasting in 1958 with one number of a station at Delhi, Old Delhi Railway Bridge. And we started gauge-to-gauge correlation. From a base station water level, we are predicting that what will be the water level at a forecast station situated downstream at a downstream station. So, and the response time, warning time for this model depends upon the travel time of flow between the base station and forecasting station. So this response time varies between 6 to 30 hours. In case of suppose Hardwar, the warning time is 6 hours. We are using Srinagar as a base station and forecasting the water level for Hardwar. Then warning time available is the only 6 hours. But suppose we are forecasting the water level for a Patna Gandhi Ghat station and we are using base station as Allahabad, then it gives nearly 24-hour warning time. So if flashy and hilly rivers, warning time is less, whereas in the plain, warning time increases up to 24. Still, this is a very robust model. And main driving parameters are the catchment memory, conveyance of the river, and even if suppose this correlation curves are developed with a long-term data of 30-35 years, extreme rainfall event can also be covered in that. So even without correlating the rainfall with the rise in water level, this system performs very well. But with the advent of this accurate rainfall forecast, we have shifted to rainfall runoff modeling also, and we have increased our warning time from 24 hours to 72 hours. Means we are giving now advance warning of 3 days. This is our standard operating procedure of issuing the flood forecast. 3 prominent levels we need to understand. One is warning level, second is danger level, and third is highest flood level. See, warning and danger level we are deciding in consultation with. Hello. Hello. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. You can continue, sir. Sorry for that.
Okay. So, see, warning, danger line is generally, as a rudimentary definition, is that if from the set plinth level of the building, water level has reached 30 centimeter below the plinth level, then that generally considered a danger line. And from danger line to from danger level, we generally assume that below 1 meter below will be warning level. So based on this, we have set our standard operating procedure. See, if the water level has reached between warning level and danger level, it is generally considered as a above normal flood situation. And if it has crossed the danger level and below the highest ever flood level of that station, that is known as a severe flood situation. And 3-hourly orange bulletin is issued from our end. And that is being disseminated up to PMO, Home Ministry, NDMA. And then if it crosses the highest flood level, it is termed as extreme flood situation, and hourly bulletin is generally issued, which goes up to PMO and Cabinet Secretariat. So over the years, following has been the modernization in flood forecasting technique. We have started from manual gauge reading as far as data collection part is concerned, but now we have shifted to the RTDS system, means automatic real-time data acquisition and communication system. Then we have started a 3-day advisory forecast based on rainfall runoff modeling using 3-day QPF of IMD. Then we have recently an MOU with Google, and we are trying to give our inundation alert corresponding to our flood forecasting station. So we have already covered now 29 level forecasting stations covering 35,000 square kilometer of area. So this was one of the challenge, because people were more interested to know that which area will be inundated, what will be the inundation depth in that area. So we have tried to have one agreement, and we are issuing the inundation alerts also now. Now coming to this flash flooding, we have done one study regarding the
Hello, sir.
Jhelum flood of 2014. Hello.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, just sorry to interfere, sir. Due to time constraints, sir, we are running short of time, sir. Kindly,
Only
sir.
two slides now. Only
Thank
two
you,
slides.
Sir.
I am finishing.
You,
so in flash flooding, our aim is generally to increase the lead time and also have a reliable flood warning, and also timely dissemination of that information to the emergency managers and also to the public. Hello.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Again, not moving.
Okay. I think, sir, you have stopped sharing your presentation, sir. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your presentation has stopped.
Hello.
1 minute, please. Sorry.
PPT is unvisible.
Huh? Hello.
Yes.
It has been shared.
Yeah. Sir, you are sharing.
I think it's hanging. Is it visible now?
Sir, I will request you to kindly turn off your video. Your net will be rather more faster. Kindly turn off your video. Yes, sir. Now it's
So it's visible now,
yes, sir.
and I am audible also.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
So see, we have tried to give some flash flood guidance based on the QPF provided for the Jhelum Basin. And our study reveals that if there is 25 mm QPF over 24 hours, this is for the Ram Munshi Bagh flood forecasting station, which is located in the heart of Srinagar. So it has been found that for 25 mm QPF over 25 hours, it has not much potential threat. So water level is expected to reach below warning level in case of 25 mm QPF over 25 hours. But if 50 mm QPF is there in 24 hours, then there is low potential threat, and it is expected that water level can rise above warning level. Then if it is 75 mm QPF over 24 hours, then there is moderate potential threat, and water level can cross the danger level. And if it is 100 mm QPF over 24 hours, then there is chance of crossing or near to be HFL, and it has high potential threat. So we have an idea that we can prepare a library for all our flood forecasting stations in all basins, so that we can link some QPF based flood guidance. See, the accuracy of QPF very much depends on predicting the water level. If there is plus minus 25 mm deviation of the QPF from the actual rainfall over 24 hours, then there is chance of level prediction of 1 to 1.5 meter. 1 to up to 1.85 meter also. In case of deviation, if the QPF deviation is plus minus 50 mm from the actual observed rainfall in 24 hours. So it has some limitations, but one trial can be made like this for the flash flood guidance linked with the QPF. See, one of the main reason of flash flood is also this dam break. Again, it's not moving somehow. See, there was a blockade in Futkal River in Kargil district in 2014 in December. And see, we have tried to monitor this, and we tried to have a controlled blast in those areas. And then we can predict that what water level which be reached at which location downstream of the landslide dam break site, with the travel time, what will be the travel time expected, and what will be the expected water level at that downstream location. So these type of dam break studies we can make, and that is being done by CWC. But this is the event-based phenomena. Whenever there will be some reporting of landslide, dam break, or glacial lake outbursts, that can be done. So